Okay, so good day everyone. Today we're going to discuss control structure and loops in PHP. Okay, so I will show you how to use all the main control structures that are supported in PHP, like if else, for each, while, and more. So, what is a control structure? In simple terms, a control structure allows you to control the flow of code execution in your application. Generally, a program is executed sequentially, line by line, and the control structure allows you to alter that flow, usually depending on certain condition. The control structures are core features of the PHP language that allows you script to respond differently to different inputs or situation. And this could also allow script to give different responses based on user input, file contents, or some other data. Now, so the following flowchart explain how a control structure works in PHP. So as you can see in this diagram, first a condition is checked. No? If the condition is true, the conditional code will be executed. The important thing to note here is that code execution continues normally after conditional code execution. So let's consider the following example. No? So in this example, the program checks whether or not the user is logged in. So based on the user's login status, they will be redirected to either the login page or the My Account page. In this case, a control structure ends code execution by redirecting users to a different page. So this is a crucial ability of the PHP language, no? So of course, PHP supports a number of different control structure as I mentioned earlier, such as if, else if, switch, while, do while, for each, and others. So let's take a look of a few this control structure with example. So we learned the basic of control structure in PHP and their usefulness in application development. So we will go through a couple of important control structures that you'll end up using frequently in your day-to-day applications. Now, so PHP if statement. Okay, the if construct allows you to execute a piece of code if the expression provided along with it evaluates to true. So let's have a look at this example to understand how it actually works. So this example should output the your age is greater than 30 message since the expression evaluates to true. In fact, if you want to execute not only a single statement, the above example can be rewritten without brackets as shown in the following snippet. Okay? So as what we have here at the bottom. Okay? So on the other hand, if you have more than one statement to execute, you must use brackets as shown in this example. This one. So as you can see here, we are now using the if, no? This is what we call brackets, no? So we use bracket if we have more than one statements. Okay, so how about the PHP else statement? In the previous discussion, no, we discussed the if construct which allows you to execute a piece of code if the expression evaluates to true. On the other hand, if the expression evaluates to false, it won't do anything. So more than that, you also want to execute a different code snippet if the expression evaluates to false. That's where the else statement comes into the picture. You always use the else statement in conjunction with an if statement. Basically, you can define it as what we have here, no, in our example. Okay, so this will be the first example, and let's revise the previous example to understand how it works. Na? So actually, this if expression is a syntax using if-else statement. But for us to understand it better and how we'll be able or to understand how it works, so this will be the example. So for example, our variable is age, of course, is equal to 50, for example. Then if age is less than 30, begin echo your age is less than 30. Then end. Else begin is echo your age is greater than or equal to 30. End. Then closing tag for PHP. So when you have two choices and more, and one of them must be executed, you can use the if-else construct. Okay? How about the PHP else if statement? Okay? So we consider the else if statement as an extension to the if-else construct. So if you've got more than two choices to choose from, you can use the else if statement. Okay? So let's study the basic structure of the else if statement. So we have here the syntax of else if statement. So as you can see here, it's too different from the previous programming language, especially for Java, C, C++, because this time, else if is written in one word. Now, rather than other programming language, it's written separately. Okay? So we have a syntax here, and following the syntax, no, we have a real word example. Okay? So as you can see in the above example, or with this given example, no, so age is less than 30, echo your age is less than 30, else if age is greater than, and now we are now using the end, no, end command. That is under conditional operator. Okay? Then we have multiple conditions, right? Because we have echo 1, echo that is age less than 30. Then we have also the between 30 to 40. And you have also greater than 50 and so on. Okay? So we've used a series of else if statements, right? And the event that all if conditions evaluate to false, it execute the code provided in the last else statement. So if, for example, if your inputted value is not within these three first conditions, so therefore the output will be your age is greater than 50. Okay? Now, actually, this is also a sort of review because last meeting we already have a discussion about if, else, switch, and so on. Now, the switch statement is somewhat similar to the else if statement which we've just discussed in the previous last meeting. The only difference is the expression which is being checked. No? So in the case of the else if statement, you have a set of different conditions and an appropriate action will be executed based on a condition. On the other hand, if you want to compare a variable with different values, you can use the switch statement. So as usual, an example is the best way to understand the switch statement is here. So as what we have here. So favorite underscore site is equal to code. So switch. So since our variable is the favorite underscore site, so this will be the switch name, okay? Or variable for that. So for example, case business, eco my favorite is business.toothplus.com, and so on and so forth. Okay? But at the last part, this will be the default. No, I like everything at toothplus.com. Okay? And as you can see in this example, we want to check the value of the favorite underscore site variable. And based on the value of the favorite underscore site variable, we want to print a message. So for each value you want to check with the favorite underscore site variable, you have to define the case block. No? And if the values is matched with a case, the code associated with that case block will be executed. So after that, you need to use the break statement to end a code execution. If you don't use the break statement, script execution will be continued up to the last block in the statement. And of course, finally, if you want to execute a piece of code, if the variable's value doesn't match any case, you can define it under the default block. Of course, it's not mandatory. It's just a way to provide a default case. So that's the story of conditional control structure, and it's already discussed last meeting. And I will already give you some hands-on activity regarding the switch statement. Now, how about loops in PHP? Again, in PHP, loops are useful when you want to execute a piece of code repeatedly until a condition evaluates to false. So code is executed repeatedly as long as a condition evaluates to true. And as soon as the condition evaluates to false, the script continues executing the code after the loop. Okay? So as what we have here, no, as you can see in these screenshots, in this figure, no, a loop contains a condition. So if the condition evaluates to true, the conditional code is executed. So after execution of the conditional code, control goes back to the loop condition and the flow continues until the condition evaluates to false. So of course, we have the different types of loops supported in PHP, right? So the while loop is used when you want to execute a piece of code repeatedly until the while condition evaluates to false. Okay, so based on the given example here, as what we have here, we have a while expression. This will be the syntax for while statement. Then, let's have a look at the real world example to understand how the while works in PHP. Okay? So as what we have here, so for example, the variable max equal to 0, echo variable I is equal to 0, then echo j is equal to 1. So echo result is equal to 0. So while max is less than 10, then it will execute the value here. So take note, it means to say that this loop end, no, from 0 to 9 because that is less than 10, right? Okay, by the way, no, if you're familiar with the PHP or if you're familiar with Fibonacci series, right, you might recognize that the above program or the given program does, no, it outputs the Fibonacci series of the first 10 numbers. So the while loop is generally used when you don't know the number of iteration that are going to take place in a loop. Okay, so this will be the example of a Fibonacci series. Now, how about the do while loop? The do while loop is very similar to the while loop, of course, with the only difference being that the while condition is checked at the end of the first iteration. Thus, we can guarantee that the loop code is executed at least once, no, irrespective of the result of the while expression. Let's have a look at the syntax of the do while loop. Okay, so as what we have here. So this will be the do, begin, the code to execute, while, then end. So we have here an example. So of course, based on the given example, no, we're trying to read a file line by line. Okay. Firstly, we've opened a file for reading. In our case, we're not sure if the file contains may content at all, or contains any content at all. Thus, we need to execute the fgets functions at least once to check if a file contains any content. So we can use the do while loop here. No, do while evaluates the condition after the first iteration of the loop. Okay? How about the for loop statement? No, generally, The for loop is used to execute a piece of code a specific number of times. So in other words, if you already know the numbers of times you want to execute a block of code, it's the for loop which is the best choice. Okay? So let's have a look at the syntax of the for loop statement. So as what we have here, we have for expression 1 semicolon, expression 2 semicolon, expression 3 semicolon. Begin, code to execute, then end. So the expression 1 is used to initialize variables. So for example, sum is equal to 0 or a is equal to 0 or a is equal to 10 and so on. And it's always executed. No? So the expression 2 is also executed at the beginning of a loop. And if it evaluates to true, the loop code is executed. For example, a is equal to 0, a is greater than or equal to 20. Na? So after execution of the loop code, the expression tree is executed. Generally, the expression tree is used to alter the value of the variable which is used in the expression to expression. So let's go through the following example to see how it works. So the this output or this program, I mean, no, the square of the first 10 numbers, it initialize $I or the variable I to 1 as what we have here, no? Based on what we have here. So we have a, of course, the first, the opening tag of PHP. Then for I is equal to 1. This will be our initialization. Then I less than or equal to 10. This will be our what? Condition. And of course, this one is our iteration. So plus plus $1, dollar I, that's our variable. Okay? So again, this outputs the square of the first 10 numbers. So it initializes I to 1, repeats as long as I is less than or equal to 10, and adds 1 to $I at each iterations. Okay? How about for each statement? The for each loop is used to iterate over array values. No? If you have an array variable and you want to go through each element of that array, the for each loop is the best choice. So let's have a look for a couple of examples as what we have here. Okay? So if you want to access array value, so we have an array values here, no, apple, banana, orange, grapes, no? You can use the first version of the for each loop as shown in the above example, as the given example. On the other hand, if you want to access both a key and a value, you can do it as shown in the employee example. No? So we have here the fruits, at the bottom is the employee. So under employee, we have name, age, and of course the profession. Now, breaking out of the loop. There are times when you might want to break out of a loop before it runs its course. No? This can be achieved easily using the break keyword. No? It will get you out the current for each, while, do while, or switch structure. You can also use break to get out of multiple nested loops by supplying a numeric argument. So for example, using break tree will break you out of three nested loops. However, you cannot pass a variable as the numeric argument if you are using a PHP version greater than or equals to 5.4. So we have here an example, of course. So another keyword that can interrupt loops in PHP is continue. However, this only skip the rest of the current loop iteration instead of breaking out of the loop altogether. So just like break, you can also use a numerical value with continue, no, to specify how many nested loops it should skip for the current iterations. So this will be an example of a simple continue. Okay, so that's it. And later is I will give you a hands-on example of this discussion. So, turn on, of course, your computer, and at the same time, be sure that you turn on also your SAM control. No, start the My SQL, of course. No, and I will demonstrate on how we'll be able to apply this example. Thank you.